our sheets that we're going to be using for our midterm. Okay, so we'll probably, if you look at the example midterm files that I uploaded to Canvas, I think there's 3 of them. We'll be creating a total of I think 8 sheets. Okay, and so a part of that is we're going to create our own title block. Okay. So right now, if I go to my level 2 floor plan, you'll see that this is actually the one that we created last semester. And this is really all you need to create for a class like this. By default, Revit actually gives you title blocks, but they're very like construction document related title blocks, and they're really ugly. For just kind of basic design work, I like to have a design title block and a construction title block. It just makes it a little bit less official. And even in my office, when I do all my design work, I have a nice simple basic design title block, and then we have our construction documents title block that has a lot more information on it. So I'm going to delete this for now, and the first thing we're going to learn is how to create a sheet. Okay, I'm recording, right? Okay, good. So how to create a sheet. So if we go over to our project browser on the left-hand side, you're going to notice a button that says Sheets. All right. If I right-click on Sheets, I will then have the option to click on New Sheet. All right. And from here, you're probably going to have all of these except for DVC title block. That's the one that I created. But let's look at what you might have. You might just have one actually. Yeah. You just have one? Is it just D22 by 34 horizontal?
D130 by 42.
Okay. Okay, that's all right. So if you let's just double click on that, and you're going to get something that looks like this. Okay, it's a very it's a construction type of title block, and our sheet size is what did it say, 30 by 42. Right. That's not what we're going to use in this class. That's a really big sheet size. Okay, so I'm going to close out of that, and again I'm going to right click. Let me delete that. I'm going to right click on Sheets. I'm going to click on New Sheet, and what you're going to do is you're going to click on Load. All right, you're going to click on Load, and then just like we got from when we were looking for windows and doors, we're going to go down to the bottom, and we're going to click on Title Blocks, and you'll get about 6 different title blocks that you can choose. Okay, we can create more. You could create 24 by 36 or 30 by, we already have 30 by 42, but you could create other sizes, but these are kind of some of your most typical sheet sizes that a lot of people use, okay? So for this class, we're actually gonna use 22 by 34. The reason why I actually like to use 22 by 34 is that if you wanna print on 11 by 17 printer, it prints it full size, and it's not gonna be a funky scale when you plot your work. So for this class, we're going to click on option D, 22 by 34. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open that. So you're going to get something that looks like this. So D22 by 34. Let's go ahead and hit OK. And we'll have basically how we're going to start to build this, our own title block. All right, we're going to end up deleting a majority of what we see here. All right. You're going to double click on that. So let me go back real quick now. All right, so once you get that title block open, so this is actually our sheet layout. So this is kind of a way to think, for those of you that use CAD, this is basically paper space. Okay, so you have your model space and you have your paper space. Paper space is where you drag all of your different views onto, all right? So if you grab, let's say, the level 1 floor plan, you could drag that view onto your sheet. Okay, and if I click, you can see here that I now have that data on my sheet. Okay, and then you can put on a level 2 floor plan or whatever you want. Okay, so that's how it's just a simple drag and drop. That's how you might put your different views that you create onto your sheet. Yes?
Quick question, whenever you drag and drop, is the size still remain on level 1? Is it copy and paste?
Yes. What you see right here is exactly what you see if you go to your level 1 floor plan. Okay? Exactly what you see here. All right, so I'm gonna go Control Tab, go back to my sheet. Okay? So you can see that there's one floor plan. I can move it up. And we're gonna look at how to do some kind of general sheet organization here in a little bit, but then you might put your level 2 floor plan, something kind of like that. Okay, so you can start to accumulate your different views onto your sheet. And this is how I'm going to want you to start organizing your work from here on out. So instead of just exporting a view, if I ask for your floor plans and your elevations for tonight's or for this residence's homework, you would just plot these 2 sheets. So the nice thing about this is as soon as you put your views onto your sheets, every time you make updates to your work, it's always going to update your sheet. Your sheets will always be current, always. Okay, so you don't have to go and fix things on your sheets. As soon as you put that view on there, it will always have the up-to-date and current work. So at the end of your residence exercise, when you know you're done, all you do is plot your sheets, and whatever is current will be on the sheet. So it works really nicely. But before we get into some basic sheet organization, let's learn to create our own title block. So if you double click on that title block, it will bring you into the title block editor. Okay, you can see here that now we can have access to things like I can start to edit all of the little components of our sheet. Okay, has everyone done that? Has everyone double clicked on their title block? Okay, so now what we're doing is we're editing the title block family. Okay, so I may have briefly talked about families in the beginning of class. Basically, every object that we work with, whether it be a title block, a door, a desk, they all have their individual families. Okay, so there's actually a file that represents that object. Okay, so what we're going to do now to create our own file is we're going to save this family. We're going to save this to our thumb drive. So we're going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to click on Family. Notice that project is grayed out because we're not working on the project anymore. We're actually editing the individual family for this title block. So I'm going to save this family. I'm going to save it to my thumb drive so that I always have access to my title block. All right, so I'm going to save it to fall, week 3. All right, and I'm going to, I'm not going to overwrite this, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. So we'll say DVC. All right, and now I have that title block to use for the rest of the semester. Okay, so let's look at the different components of our title block. We have things like a revision log. Okay, so we're only going to use that if we're doing construction documents. I'm going to delete that. I don't need it. All right, and then you're going to have your basic line work. So all of these lines right here are all going to be model lines. Okay, so if you go up to create, this is going to be a little bit different than your typical toolbar that you're used to seeing in your projects. Okay, but these are going to be all your different tools that you have access to for creating your own title block. Okay, so you'll notice one that says line right here. All right, from there I can go and select what type of lines, and I could start to create, kind of block out the different areas of my title block. Okay, so those are going to be your different line work. Okay, so you can see these are all just examples of those lines. Okay, if we go up to create, we're going to have a few dimension tools so that if you need to take some dimensions of what it is that you're creating, you can do that, but you're never going to want those dimensions in your title block. The two most important things that we're going to talk about today are going to be labels and text. So we're going to be working primarily with lines, labels, and text. So text, just like when you're working within a project, is going to be something like this. So if I double click on this, this is all just going to be basic text. So for the default title block, they've included some text for things like consultants, addresses, phone numbers. This is where you might put some of that information. Okay, so that's going to be your text. Now the difference between text and labels is that text, once you load this title block into your project, text is not editable. Okay, it is what you see right here on the title block editor is what you get in the project. Whereas a label, right here, notice that it says client's name. A label is actually editable inside the project. Okay, so I'm going to load this into my project. All right, I'm going to go to Sheets, A4, and I'm going to, let me delete this. I'm going to create a new sheet, and I'm going to select that DVC title block. There it is right there. So that's the one that I just created. All right, so I now have that as an option to select when I'm creating a new sheet. All right, so I'm going to click on that DVC title block that I just created, and notice that over here, I can't edit any of these. Okay, so right now, the only thing I could do with this is I could actually go up to annotate, and I can actually write some notes next to those objects. But if we go down to below here, all of these options that we saw earlier, these are all actually labels. Notice that if I click on them, I can actually call them what I want. Okay, so for example, I might just call this residence project. Okay, and I can now change this particular data from my actual project. Okay, here there was a label created for your sheet name, so I can now go here and call this, we'll say floor plans. Okay, notice that when I change floor plans and I go over to my sheets in my project browser, notice that it says A5 floor plans. Okay, so I can actually see my sheet name under where it says sheets. If I change my sheet number to, we'll say A3, it will change that in my project browser, so that this title and my sheet number will always remain the same in the project browser. Okay, and then we have more labels like project number, the date, the author, so who drew this. These are all labels because I could change them within my project. Okay, so let's double click on our title block again. Let's go through on how we can create some of those objects. Okay, I'm going to delete all of these for now, just so that we can create our own. Okay, and I'm also going to delete all of the original title block. All right, I'm going to delete it so we can create our own. Okay, I'm just going to start from scratch because I'm going to be honest, this title block is terrible. All right, just select some of those. All right, get rid of this date stamp. And I'm just going to leave myself with this. All right, so we got an outer extents of our sheet. So that's actually, if you measure this, this will be 22, and this will be 34. Okay, that's the actual full extents of our sheet. And then the line in front of that is basically a margin. Okay, so that's telling you, you typically wouldn't put any data beyond those margins. Okay, so let's create a couple lines. Maybe we make, we're just going to add a little line maybe at the bottom to, we'll do a side title block. I'll let you guys create your title block to however you want it. Excuse me. Whether or not you want it aligned on the right or the left or the bottom or the top, you guys can do it however you want. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of line work, thin lines. Maybe we make this title block. I'm going to use my pick lines tool. Maybe we make this title block 2 inches. Okay, so I'm going to use my pick lines, probably a little bigger than that. Let's say 4 inches. I can then go over and pick my line. That gives me a boundary of that title block. Maybe I give it a little 0.2 inch, just a nice little detail line to give it a little extra dimension. Okay, I'm going to create another line at the very top for a little place to add maybe a logo. Okay, so I'll leave that right there. I might put a DVC logo, or your company logo would go in that spot. Okay, I'm going to create a little place for my sheet number. I'm going to create maybe a little block for some other data, and we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it nice and simple. Okay, I'd recommend Googling some images of title blocks if you've never created one, so you can kind of see how they're structurally organized. Okay, but let's look at text and let's look at labels. So if we go to create, I'm going to go over to label. So I'm going to click on label, and then from there I'm going to click on my sheet. All right, and as soon as you click on that sheet, you're going to get this little dialog box with a list of all of the labels. Okay, so the first label that I'm going to add is a sheet number. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to find a label that is titled sheet number. So right here, sheet number. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on this add parameter to label field. Actually, no, take that back. Don't click on that. Just double click on the sheet number, and it's going to add it over here into the box on the right-hand side. And then from there, I can click on OK, and I now have a label. Okay, so just like text when you're working within your project, you can go over here and maybe we want our label to be, maybe we want it to be, definitely a lot bigger than this. So maybe we create a label for 1/2 inch. So we're going to create a 1/2 inch label. So we're going to duplicate that, hit OK. I'm going to change my text size to 1/2 inch. And if you want to change the font, you can do that. Revit probably gives you about 50, 60 different fonts to choose from. I'm just going to leave it on Arial. All right, I'm going to hit OK. So there's our sheet number.
How did you get there? I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to do it a couple more times. So again, I'm going to go over to Create, and I'm going to click on Label. I'm going to then click on the screen. That will open up the Edit Label dialog box. And I'm going to do the next one, which will be the sheet name. All right, so I'm going to add the sheet name. I'll double click on it. It will add it over into this right box. I'm going to then hit OK. And maybe this is a little bit smaller. It actually by default gives you a bunch. You probably won't need to create your own. But I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to make the box a little bit bigger, and I'm also going to click on, let's see, the reason why, so as soon as I added this label to my sheet, you'll notice that it's this very small kind of constrained box. I'm going to make it as wide as the little area that I have to work with, because if I change the sheet name to something like building 4 elevations south. Well, it's going to need a couple lines of text, so I want to be able to let it grow on the sheet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I'm going to leave it like that. You have some more options on how the text aligns. You guys can kind of mess with that as you wish, but I'm going to go ahead and change that right here. I'll put it something kind of like that. Okay, so that's our sheet name. All right. And let's see, what else might we add? Let's add a couple more labels, maybe for like your name, maybe the school address, what have you. Okay, so I'm going to put, let's see, let's put building name. Okay, well, let's put client name. Let's add client name. Okay, same thing. I can move this over here. All right, and I could add a whole bunch more. I'm not going to go through and add every one of them, but you can add as many labels as you feel necessary. Okay. Now, why would you add a label versus text? You might use text instead of a label for things like, for something up here where I might add a logo and maybe I add the DVC address. If you know it's never going to change, you know it's always going to remain the same, you can use text. If you know you're never going to change it, use text. Okay, so for example, I might go to, I want to put the DVC logo on here, and if you have another logo you want to use, and I would suggest either using the DVC logo for this project, or if maybe you have a little logo you've created for yourself in the past, that's fine too. I'm going to go over to Insert, and I'm going to click on Image, and then from there, I've already downloaded the DVC logo. I just found it on Google. All right, and I go ahead and click on Open. And I could add that logo to something kind of like that. And then I'm going to add some text. And you might say something like Diablo Valley College. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4. What is it, like Viking Drive or something like that? Golf Links Drive. Sure, Golf Links Drive, Pleasant Hill, California. Okay, so we go ahead and click check. I'm going to make that a little smaller, 1/8 inch. Okay, and maybe I put that right there. Okay, so that's text. That's an example of text that will never change. I don't need that to edit, but if you want it to be something like a sheet name, a sheet number, checked by, drawn by, those are all things that you may need to actually change on every sheet that you have, and you don't want to have to go in and create, edit it on the title block every single time. Okay, ideally you should have one title block for the entire project. You shouldn't have to create multiple title blocks if you want to change the information. Okay, so I'm going to save that DVC title block. I'm going to load it into my project. I'm going to click on overwrite the existing version, and now I have kind of the makings of a new title block. Okay, obviously this title block probably needs another like half an hour of work to make it look nice and make it look presentable, but you can see here that I could go through and I could change this to A6 if I wanted to. I could give it and it changes over in my project browser. I could call this building 5 elevation south. Okay. Oh, it's telling you that you can't put in I tried to put in a funky character. You can't do that. So floor plans level 2. Okay, and then it changes that on the sheet. So if you want to switch between title blocks, so I'm now going to show you, I'm now going to change it back to the one that I actually created last semester that I put some time into. I now have, this nice little title block. It has a sheet name, it has a sheet number, has a little bit about my project, residence project, the address. This is a sorry, I'm losing my my train of thought. So this is a label. I could change that to my name, etc. I made a label for the residence project. This might be residence project part 3. Okay, so that's kind of an example of a finished title block. So you guys, as a part of today's exercise, will need to create your own title block. Okay, so start with one of the ones already created by Revit. So start with the 22 by 34 inch title block, open it, save your own instance of it to your thumb drive, go ahead and delete everything from it, and create your own. It could be as simple or as complicated as you want, but I would spend maybe about half an hour on creating something. Add a logo. Adding a logo is one of the requirements for this. Okay, so add some kind of graphic to it. So, but you can make it as simple or as fun as you might want. Okay, any questions about title blocks?
Would you like us to submit the work today for the building that we're making the version when that's
Yes.
title block?
Yep. So you won't need to send me an image of just the title block. You will put your floor plans and you will put your elevations or whatever I request on the prompt, on the exercise prompt. You'll put those on your title block. Okay. So let me just do a couple of quick things. I want to talk about sheet organization a little bit, okay? And this is going to go back to crop regions, which we talked about earlier in the class, all right? So earlier, when I dragged this level 1 floor plan on, notice that when I drag this floor plan on, the extents of this view is actually huge. We don't want the extents to be larger than the sheet. So we can actually change this though. Even though when I click on the view itself is actually, it actually fits pretty well on the sheet. The problem is if you print this, it's going to try to print the entire extents of the sheet, which will actually be that dark black line. So we can fix this. So earlier we talked about if you double click on, what did I just put on there? I just put on there level 1. If you wanted to make edits to this view, so this is our level 1 floor plan, you could either go double click on level 1 and go and make your changes, or just like AutoCAD, you could double click on the view while on the sheet, and you can actually now make changes just like you would inside your model. Okay, so just like AutoCAD, when you double click on a view and it's now active and you can make edits to it, it works very much the same way. So the reason why that view is so big is because we have these elevation tags that are like way out in space right now. So we're going to do a couple things to fix this. We're going to change our elevation tags. We're going to move them a lot closer so they're actually within our view so that you could see them. Eventually, when you place your elevations on a sheet, these elevation tags are going to change to have, you know, the sheet number and the detail number on it, just like it would in typical architectural drawings, okay? We'll see that happen a little bit later. So I'm going to move my elevation views just a little closer. All right, so that's going to be step 1, about like that, okay? And if you click on these elevations, you're going to notice that you get this little line right here. That line represents the cut plane of your elevation, okay? So I'm going to move that cut plane just in front of the work that I'm trying to see, okay? If I move that cut plane right here, I actually have a section now because it's going to cut through that. If I double click on that triangle, I now am looking at a section of my building, okay? So wherever, if you click on that little triangle, wherever the front of that cut line is what you're going to see in your elevation. So this is now how the elevation should actually look. All right, so I'm going to do that for all of my views. That actually looks pretty good. That I can kind of maybe put that over here. Okay, and that looks good too. All right. So lastly, before we finish up, let's talk about crop regions again. So if I go down here and I click on, let's see, hide crop region. Oh, there's my crop region right there. I'm actually going to make my crop region to be just beyond the extents of my elevation tags. Okay, so just like that. And then I'm going to turn off my, then I'm going to click on crop, and then I'm going to turn off my crop region. Now, notice that when I click on my view, the edge of the extents is right where that crop region was. Okay, that's how typically you would want all of your views to be for no matter what you put on there, whether they be floor plans, whether they be elevations. You always want to turn on your crop region and just make sure that it's nice and tight on exactly what you want to see. Otherwise, if you try to print later, you could have one little tiny line off in space and it's going to include that into your view. So by using your crop regions, that allows you to specifically say, that's the only thing I want to see on my sheet. Okay, so a couple more components of the view. So as soon as you place that view on the sheet, you're going to have this little title down here. You'll notice that it says level 1, it says the scale, and it says the detail number. Okay, I can grab that view, and I'm going to bring this up and put it right below my view. Okay, so let me just go back. I'll do that again. So if you click on that sheet title, you can now move it to wherever you want. Okay, and if you click on the view again, you can actually grab the little toggle and you can make that the size that you want it to be. Okay, so the reason why it was so big initially was because our crop regions were huge, and as soon as you place it onto your sheet, that view title will always be the length of whatever your original crop region was. So that's another reason why, to just kind of start to button things up just a little bit. All right, any questions about that at all? Good. We'll call that quits for now. I know that's a lot of information we just learned today. All right, we'll go ahead and save that, and that'll be it for today. That will get you through the residence part 3. All right, so as a part of the residence part 3, you're going to want to put your views onto a sheet. Your goal should be, I think it says, let's see, let's go down to the very bottom. We have the title block, and you're going to want to put your first and second floor plan along with a 3D view of your residence. Have we talked about creating 3D views yet? I don't think so. Let's talk about it real quick. Real simple, real easy. Okay, so you're going to have one sheet that has your first and second floor plan on it, and you're going to have one sheet that has a couple 3D views on it. Okay, let's make a 3D view. So I'm going to double click on level 1, and I'm going to go up to view, and then I'm going to go to 3D view.
Are you recording this?
Yes, I am still recording. I'm then going to click on camera. Okay, and then from there I can place that camera. So I can't see my camera right now because my crop regions are actually turned on. There we go. I just turned them off. But from here, I can put my camera wherever I want. I'm going to click one time, and I'm going to drag out where I want to see, okay? So I'm going to click right there, and now I have a perspective view of my building, okay? So and you could do that from wherever you want. And just like my floor plans, I have a crop region. So if I want to only show a particular part or detail, I can do that. In my case, I want to show off the whole building. Okay, and over here under your properties dialog box, you can control your eye elevation. So maybe I want it to be like a bird's eye. I might go 100 feet in the air. And now I have somewhat of a bird's eye view. Okay. There's also an option called target elevation. That's where you're looking to. So my eye elevation is where your eyes actually are, but you can actually control where it is that you're looking. Are you looking down? Are you looking straight? Are you looking up? So you can control that. By default, it's always going to come in at about the average human eye, which is about 5'6". Okay, so that's going to be creating a perspective. So what you're going to want to do is create a handful of perspectives, and then just like your floor plans, turn off my crop region. Just like your floor plans, you can create a new sheet. I'm going to use my DVC title block. I'm going to call this exterior perspectives, and I can then drag my views onto my sheet. Okay, so this view right now is very small. So if I click on that view and I go up to size crop, okay, I can now click on scale. That will lock the proportions of the view so it doesn't stretch it. Okay, so I'm going to make the width of that maybe something like, I don't know, 15 inches. Hit apply, and that gives us a much better sized view. Okay, I can move my view title over. I can organize this a little bit. Okay, so right now this view is in hidden line. Okay, so if we double click on our view, we'll now be back into our, I guess you could call it model space, and we're gonna have all of the same options as if we were in a 3D view. Okay, so I can go over down to visual style. I could change that to realistic. That now gives us a nice realistic view of our building. I could turn on the shadows, and that will start to give us shadows that kind of will give our building some depth. They'll start to make more sense once we actually have roofs and whatnot on our building, but that'll start to give some realism to your views. Okay, so I'll let you guys mess with that, and I would display them all in realistic view. Okay, that helps me kind of understand the materials you're picking, and it helps me understand that you're doing the exercise correctly. So that's going to be how you create a 3D view. Any questions about that?
How many sheets would you like us to submit?
Today you're just submitting 2 sheets. You're going to have a sheet for your exterior perspectives. You might do a perspective maybe from like every corner or something like that. So you're showing several different aspects of the building. And then you're going to have a sheet for your floor plans. I think that should all be at the very end of the exercise. Now we're actually going to leave it at that. We'll call that quits.
So, do you need to create the title block?